for joining us. I'm Nikki Tomachek. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Journyx. We're about to get started with our customer training for our newest release, version 14. This is our first half release for 2026. Before I get started and turn it over to our Director of Product, Meredith Zagritz, I just want to let you know we will be sharing a link to the recording afterwards. If you have any questions, feel free to toss them in the chat. We will answer them at the end. In recording, please feel free to pass that around to colleagues if they weren't able to join today's session. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Meredith to start the training.
Great. Thank you, Nikki, and welcome everybody. We'll just jump right on in. For version 14, we have a bunch of new exciting features. First and foremost, you may notice, for those of you who've been with us for a while, when we jump a major version, so from version 13 to version 14, that signals that we have a bunch of really great architecture updates that helps us to deliver your JX and PX solutions more quickly with better security and better performance. There's all kinds of goodness in there, including Python version upgrades, other backend upgrades, and as well for those of you who are kind of techie, it involves some containerization for delivery for easier and quicker delivery. So a lot of good things there in version 14 that will help us to serve you better. In addition to the back-end things that you might not be able to see, we also have a variety of new features that you will be able to see in your Journyx site, whether it's in some cases as an administrator and then other cases for some of our end users. We do have some cool site activity tools that are new to version 14. And even if you aren't planning to use them, I'm going to show them quickly today just so that you know that they exist should you be interested. And we'll be looking at everything here that you see in purple on screen today. We also have some improvements related to user time zones. So for anybody who's paid much attention to, say, in-out type screens, allocation type screens that you may use, what we have done in previous versions was allow you to set a default time zone for your JX server. So you could have your JX server set to be in, say, Eastern US or, an EU time zone. The default typically is Central Time Zone US because that's where we have our main AWS instantiation. But you could set your server time zone to something other than that default Central US time zone. However, you could not then customize time zones by end user, so based on location. So if you have people in multiple locations and multiple time zones, if you have field service folks who are traveling from, in between time zones with mobile devices, you couldn't see, when they entered their in and out times, you couldn't see what time zone they were in. And in some cases, the times might even be changed to Central Time Zone when in fact they were tracked in a different time zone. And of course, knowing that, somebody clocked in at 8 a.m. might be important. And so we wouldn't want to change it to some other time based on a default time zone. So that's what we're going to look at today with the user-based time zones. And we also have a feature that has been much requested that we were finally able to get to in version 14, and that has to do with recalling submitted timesheets. We all occasionally hit submit, and even though we double check and say, are you sure you want to submit right now, we still hit it and sometimes realize that we forgot to do something or we made a mistake, or perhaps you thought you were done for the Friday and you click submit and then you got called in to do a little bit more. So provided that approvers haven't already taken action for your sheet, end users can be given the ability to undo a submission. And then finally, for mobile today, we'll take a look at a new feature to get allocation manual in out times entered quickly. And so we'll show that at the very end. The last feature that I want to mention, and this comes along with the architecture updates, is that we do have a new process for anybody who uses custom tools delivered by our professional services department. And we have automated builds and automated updates for these major version upgrades now available. And so previously we might have had to hand off to a pro services engineer to do a couple of hours of work. on some of those custom tools to update them for the new version, and that's no longer something that that has to be done manually. So that's a really nice benefit as well for version 14. So given that intro, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. And I'm going to start out logging in as an administrator and showing you some of those diagnostic tools and system information screens that are new to the system. Even if you don't go check them out on your own, these are the types of things that that IT or Journyx support might direct you to, should they want to check on some issue that you've reported. And so I'm showing you right now a file integrity status page. This is probably not something you'll use a lot, but should you be working with Journyx support and patching systems or upgrading, et cetera, and concerned with anything happening, this is a tool that will allow you to provide information to our ITM support so that we can check the health of your site. And then there is also a system event log. And this is kind of cool. You can see the history of your site and any time that patches were applied. So if you upgraded, the dates of your upgrade, and just other system information that happens to your site, you know, so that you can keep track of things that are occurring. If an issue arises, you know, starting on a certain date or a certain time, you can track it back to potentially something that was done to your Journyx system using this event log page. And combined with these diagnostic tools, we have also upgraded our activity monitor. Now, activity monitor was introduced in, I think it was 13.3 maybe, but it was several releases ago. And this is something that you all have access to under your Analyze or Reporting menu. And so I wanted to just show you some of the new features in the activity monitor. And this is the one that you might find most interesting and useful of all the site indicator type tools. And activity monitor used to only show about 20 minutes of activity before it flushed out that data, and you could only see what had happened over the previous 20 minutes. But now we maintain some history, and we have some trends, which I'll show you in a minute. But there are different things you can do with this page. I can see, for example, how my system was accessed. So I can see if people are accessing it via mobile. If an end user has an issue with mobile app, you can you know, look at mobile requests only. And I actually pinned an error that I'm deliberately caused with mobile, so that I could keep it for future reference and check it out. But I can see all mobile access here, and I can unpin it or pin it right here. So if I have some kind of error scenario that I want to check out, I can find it here, pin it, and refer back to it. So it's a pretty cool tool for helping out your end users with issues, but also just looking at activity in general. So you can see everybody what has been hit by a web browser and so on. But we also maintain some aggregated data beyond the 20 minutes, and you can see requests from further back in time as well here. And we do that here in trends. And I'm going to go ahead and do 30 days. We see a little more data here. And so you can see a lot of different information here, including, you know, errors that people have encountered, response times. So there are ways to see if, you know, particular pages, we can see request volumes. I'll just go down to, and screen usage, which can also be interesting just to see, you know, what pages people are hitting the most for usage. So just wanted to show you guys these tools in case that's of interest to anybody who administers the Journyx JX product, and these could be useful tools in, like I said, determining usage and debugging any errors or problems that you have. Right. So let's now move on to some of the new features that you can make use of. And the first feature that we're going to take a look at is the user time zones. And so we'll take a look. This is something that you really couldn't see in the browser easily. Like what is your default, you know, server time zone? And as I mentioned, you do have control over how to set that and what you want to use as your base or server time zone. And so now in version 14, one of the ways that you can see on screen what your server time zone is when we have scheduled reports set to execute. And so in this case, you can see that our server time zone is Eastern US, New York. And that is when everybody's scheduled reports would be set to run based on the server default. However, we do have the ability to detect user time zones as they're entering time, either in the browser or in a mobile device, and set that time zone based on what we detect. And that's the first method used for establishing time zone information for in and out times. But we also have a fallback for when there might be some reason when a time zone can't be detected. And so we have this new setting called a default or fallback time zone. And you can see that we've got all of the choices for time zones. There are a lot of them in our list here, that where we can attach that to a specific user. And when detection isn't possible, and I will say I think that's actually pretty rare, but when detection isn't possible, that fallback time zone can be used. But what this means is also that we'll detect the device time zone if somebody is traveling and make adjustments based on somebody punching in and out, say when they're traveling for work and using their mobile device. So let's take a look at, we saw that this server is defaulting to Eastern time zone, but I am in fact in Central time zone. So when I log in to an allocation punch screen, you'll see that my clock is running on Central time. And that's because the browser can detect that I'm in Central time. And so it will show me the proper time. And when I punch in, or it won't let me punch in. Let's do that. There we go. Once my location, yeah. It will show the Central time zone. And again, I can, you know, hover and see what time zone was applied to that in and out time. And you can also see that new entries will be applied in Central time based on detection for this browser. And this is standard functionality. You don't have to do anything to turn it on. It will automatically track users in the detected time zone. And if for some reason my browser, you know, it's actually kind of difficult to get the browser into undetected mode. But if you know how to do it, you could then test the fallback time zone, which again, we looked at that on the user management screen, but there's a fallback time zone. And in my case, I have this user set to Pacific time. So if I were to not detect the time zone that I'm in as being Central, it would log my time in Pacific time. And so let's go ahead and look at how others see that. So while the end user might want to know exactly where their time is, which time zone is applied to their in and out times, obviously the approvers and administrators want to be able to see that too. And so if I were to go, for example, to crew entry and open one of my allocation screens with in out times, I can also see what time zone these were logged in. And then I can also look at these in and out times in reports. And where their in out times will have time zone information applied to the in and out times themselves. So this just provides some extra validation, essentially, you know, what the actual times were that somebody punched in and out or entered their in and out times to be sure that it complies with wage law, or does or doesn't apply to, say, overtime, et cetera, and that we're tracking it appropriately for where they do the work. We'll look at one other screen with a time zone notification, and then we'll move on to the sheet recall, the undo submit. This is another type of time entry screen. This is our job entry time entry screen. I'm going to do time. There we go. And so again, we've got our notice of what's detected for the time zone for this user. And in this case, I'll go ahead and move right along to our new feature for undoing submit. So here we've got a sheet that's been submitted, but nobody has approved any portion of it at this point. And so that would involve, the first level of sheet approvers or the first level of a project approval, if you have project approvals. So nobody's approved any of this yet. And so I see, if I'm given permission via my approval plan, I can choose to recall this or undo the submit. And there's a little tooltip there that explains it. And so again, well, are you really sure you meant to push that? Yes, I did. So I undo my submit. And now my sheet is returned to me to edit. There is an audit trail and history with this. So the sheet history does note that I have, and you can see I've tested this a couple of times with the sheet. So you can see when and who pushed the undo button for submit. And then of course I can submit it again. One thing to note, if you have email notifications set up such that when a user submits a timesheet, your approver gets an email notification that this job user 1 submitted his timesheet. When the user undoes the submit, if they choose to undo the submit, another notification will be triggered based on that one that lets the approver know, you aren't crazy, it didn't disappear from your approval queue. The user recalled it. And so when the user then submits again, that approver will receive that notification again that the sheet is now back to submitted state. Let's take a look at how you would grant individual users access to do this, because the undo submit is not automatic. You will have to turn this on if you want to use it. Log back in as an admin. This capability is granted via approval plans. So if you have existing approval plans or you have a template you use, or Chart Manager OCM to generate your approval plans, you can customize the template. There's the org time template. We'll just take a look at one of these. But there's a new option right here at the top that asks if you want to allow users to undo their own submission. And so it's going to default to no as you migrate, but you can go change your plans to default it to yes if you want to make use of this feature. I think that pretty well covers what I had to show for the undo submit. So let's take a look at mobile. Okay. So I mentioned that we added this quick entry for folks who are doing allocation in out times. And I'll just show you in mobile. It's a new setting called allocation quick entry. So if you are using an allocation screen where you manually enter your start and stop times for the day, or really your in and out times for the day, and then you allocate those hours across various projects, this option is something that you could use in mobile. And it does improve the user experience because it skips some steps of returning to a home screen and having to go back in and log your time. It allows you to do it more as a continuous process. And so I'll show you how that works. This setting only applies to people using the allocation in-out manual screen, and it will be turned on automatically for anybody using mobile because we believe it's a superior experience. But obviously you could come and any mobile user could come and turn this off. So when you have the manual in-out time screen, you may start by capturing your in and out times for a day. And so we'll do that really quickly. Let's just do, I'm gonna go ahead and grab 8 hours really quickly for a use case. So I've got my 2 times here. Now, ordinarily, when I hit save changes here, what would happen is I would stay on the screen, I'd return to the main activity screen, and then I'd have to hit the little plus icon to allocate my hours. What allocation quick entry lets me do is click save changes here. And now I'm redirected to the screen where I can allocate my hours immediately. It shows my defaults. In this case, I'm just tracking 2 things, my project and my pay type. And it automatically calculates the hours for that punch pair that I just put in there. So I deliberately picked, an 8-hour span so that I'd get 8 hours here. And so I don't have to do anything else. I can just click save if my defaults are the right values for my time. I've just entered my punch pair, seen the 8 hours, and hit save. And so now I've done both steps. I've entered my in and out times, and I've entered my hours for allocation. So it just makes it quick and easy. And then it allows for use cases. What I have set up here right now is a use case where I'm always going to enter, straight time, regular time of 8 hours for my punch pairs, but I might work more than that. So I could come in here and enter some more time. And let's do just an hour. And let's say that what that's going to be for me is overtime. And so I hit save changes. It calculates that extra hour, but this time I'm going to change my pay type to overtime. And so it just makes it quick and easy. I didn't have to go through 2 or 3 more steps to enter my hours to match up with my in and out times. So that's what allocation quick entry does in mobile. It is available in both iOS and Android. And if that's something that you guys are interested in seeing, we can certainly help you get things set up so that you can try it out. All right. So Journyx is cloud first, and that means that we deliver it as a cloud software delivery. We also offer training and upgrade assistance through our professional services department. So if that's something you're interested in, please do talk to your account manager. And then we will have demo sites available starting tomorrow when we release version 14 officially. And so again, your account manager can set you up with a demo or test site if you'd like to try things out. So at this point, I'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions.
Thanks, Meredith. It looks like we've got 1 or actually 2 from Mohammed. We are sharing the recording afterwards. And then 1, our activity monitor is limited. I cannot see all types in web browser. I think for that one, let's go ahead and we can connect you with support afterwards. Unless Meredith, you have a quick answer on that one, but
I think it would be worth. We did expand what activity monitor shows, and then timelines for what you can see substantially for version 14. So my thought is, let's get you either a version 14 test site or upgraded to version 14, and then take a look at what you can see. But I suspect that the limitations that you're seeing in activity monitor right now may be resolved with version 14, but we can certainly if you have a list of what you're wanting to see in your activity monitor that you are not seeing, that's something we could also review and let you know if it's covered by the improvements for version 14. But there's a lot more. I don't even know all of the information available in Activity Monitor now, because there was such an increase in the type of information that it could consume and display. So I haven't even walked through all of the use cases for it yet, but we'll be happy to work with you to explore those if you're interested in being able to monitor specific things there.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, we've got, nope, no more. If no other questions, that's all that we've got. Just a reminder, I will send out the recording here in the next couple of days. We'll also post it to the website. If anything else comes up, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have a nice day, and thank you guys for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.